of radiation are elements of the environment, and radioactivity is a phenomenon that occurs naturally. Applications for radiation and radioactive materials range from power generation to use in industry, agriculture, and medicine. Standard of safety for medical purpose, the operation of nuclear installation, the manufacturing, transport, and use for radioactive materials, as well as the management of radioactive waste. A national duty is to regulate safety. However, radiation threat may cross international boundaries, and international collaboration serve to promote and increase safety by exchanging knowledge and by enhancing capacity to regulate hazard, avoid accident, respond to emergency, and mitigate any negative effect. The International Atomic Energy Agency, which is IAEA, defines radiation protection, also known as radiological protection, as the protection of individuals against determinate effect of exposure to ionizing radiation and the mechanism for doing things. Exposure can occur from the external source of radiation or from internal irradiation brought on by ingesting radioactive contaminants.
LARA. It is an acronym for as low as reasonably achievable, which is it is a guiding principle that one should follow. It defines as avoiding any radiation exposure, even though in a small quantity, and there are three basic safety measures that need to be followed in order to achieve the guideline, which are time, distance, and shielding. Time is referred as amount of time spent by the workers, and it can cause harm if being exposed in the long term. People or workers should limit their time while handling or repairing the source of radiation, such as X-ray machine. Moreover, based on an article by Medline Plus, they stated that for X-ray or gamma-rays radiation, a total body exposure with 1 gray unit can cause a radiation sickness, while a total body exposure of 4 gray unit can cause death. Thus, in order to reduce the time spent with the exposure, OSHA or Occupational Safety and Health Administration already give a guideline to reduce the time spent getting exposed with the radiation. They stated that an effective emergency plan should be constructed so that the worker can enter and leave the areas where they are exposed with radiation as few times as possible. Thus, little time is taken when get exposed by radiation. Distance. Distance defined as a distance between the person and the source of radiation. They should not be too near with the source of radiation, as it will increase the exposure of radiation. Based on a research by Jae Hoon Kim, he stated that amount of radiation exposure is not inversely proportional to the distance of radiation source, but is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. Thus, it can reduce the exposure to 1/4 or quarter, which is around 80% less exposure to the radiation. In addition, the source of radiation or nuclear power plant should be built far away from any populated area, so that if there is any explosion or leakage of radiation, the probability of people get exposed with the radiation is reduced. Moreover, OSHA also stated that in any operation that use radiation, the focused response operation in areas farther from the source of radiation to reduce the fatality, thus can increase the number of survivors.
Next is shielding. If utilized in sufficient quantities, almost any substance can serve as a shield from gamma or X-ray. Ionizing radiation interact with shielding materials in various ways depending on the type. Stopping power, which change depending on the radiation type, energy, and the material being used as a shield, determine how effective shielding is. Therefore, depending on the application and the kind of energy of the radiation, several shielding approaches are employed. All clothes are necessary that can be used to prevent serious disease and injury as a result of exposure to radioactive material are referred to as personal protection equipment or PPE. In order to shield pupils from the negative effects of radiation exposure from a variety of sources, various protection strategies have been developed. This is because the radiation can harm pupils through internal and external contamination. There are some of these techniques created to shield from internal, external, and high-energy radiation. Equipment for internal contamination, protection guards against inhaling and ingesting radioactive substance. Equipment that protect against external contamination creates a barrier to prevent radioactive particles from being deposited on the skin or clothes. There are numerous ways to protect yourself from low-energy radiation exposure, such as low-energy X-rays. Large surface areas of the body can be shielded against radiation in the lower energy spectrum, since just a little amount of shielding material is needed to provide the requisite shielding. In conclusion, there are three factors that control the amount or dose of radiation received from a source. Radiation exposure can be managed by a combination of these factors, which are time, distance, and shielding. The effective dose is corresponding decrease as the exposure time is length. For the distance, because of the inverse square law, dosage decrease as distance increase. In shielding, radiation sources can be protected with solid or liquid material that absorb the radiation energy.